Muscle is the creator of carnivore pure beef protein isolate. Beef builds muscle, and carnivore is the world's #1 selling beef protein.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Fak Attack, starring MPD Pro and contest prep guru extraordinaire Fak Ron. Today we have a very special guest, Jonny Sebastian. Jonny is not only an IFBB pro, he has competed as a pro in 3 different divisions: men's physique, classic physique, and 212 bodybuilding. He's been to the Olympia twice, once as a men's physique competitor in 2014, 2016 as a classic physique competitor. And last year he was the over 35 winner in the 212 division at the Legion Sports Show in Reno, Nevada. So Jonny is a perfect person for the topic we're about to get into today, which Fak came up with. Fak comes up with all the great topics. We talked about training in general last time, but now we're going to get into, should different divisions be training differently? If you're a guy competing or aspiring to compete in men's physique or classic or 212 or open, are you going to train differently? So let's get into it, because we have a coach who's coached all people in all these divisions, and we have an athlete who's competed in all these divisions. So Fak, why don't you get things rolling? You're the man here.
Yeah, so so Jonny put a very interesting post. I think it was last week, it was last week, a little bit over a week ago, and he had put about how people don't train hard enough in the off season. You know, me, you, Ron, you and I, we did a show our last show was about training, right? About training hard. Yep. So when Jonny put that post up, I saw it right away. I was in the gym, because I'm always in the gym. I was in the gym training. Yep. And I reposted it right away. And I said, shit, let's bring Jonny on the show, because Jonny is a perfect example of what we were talking about, how training should be maximized no matter what class you're in. And Jonny, you know, competing in all these different classes, you know, as a very, you know, he's achieved a lot, you know, in all these different divisions, been to Olympia twice. So it would be great to bring him on. So Jonny, so let me ask you a question, Jonny. So upon your post about how people don't train hard enough, can you elaborate on that?
It was more so about, it was about training, but it was about off season as a whole, right?
Right.
You know, because I was talking about, and what happened was, now that I'm a coach, I'm seeing a lot of things on the coach's perspective when I'm working with athletes, right? And a lot of the times I'm talking to these guys, you know, about how they're doing in the off season, or I have a plan for them to do in the off season. And, you know, the feedback is like, oh, you know, this, and I hear a lot of excuses. And I just think back to when I was competing, I'm like, I never had any of these excuses. You know, everything to me was, everything had to be maximized to the fullest, right? And I think for me, my mindset was, because like I feel like I have good genetics, but I don't have great genetics, where I had to outwork the guys who had the really, really talented genetics, the ones who were gifted. So I had to find ways in the off season to really try to surpass them or keep up with them, right? So that's just the way I approached my off seasons in the past. Is I treated my off seasons like a contest prep. In contest prep, I never missed a meal. I never missed a cardio session. I never cheated on my diet. Everything with my training was methodical. If I was doing progressive overload, I was logging everything in my logbook. I was trying to beat the logbook while I'm in contest prep. My posing was on point. My sleep was on point, you know, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I was able to progress from a smaller men's physique guy and grow in a 3-year time span to compete in 212.
Wow.
Right. And so that is a testament to why I truly believe off-season is so important. And like, you know, I can truly say, like, those off seasons I did the methodical way is truly what catapulted me to the next step. And I tell a lot of these guys who I'm working with, I'm like, you got good genetics, you're gifted, you're just one off season away from getting your pro card. You're one off season away from qualifying for the Olympia, you know?
True.
And I almost want to put my brain in their head and just work for them, right?
I wish.
But and I know what I could do with some of these guys. So, you know, I got on and I posted that because I was kind of frustrated with one of my athletes, no names, but, and if one of my athletes is listening right now, if the shoe fits, then yeah, I'm talking to you.
It's you, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, I vented on my Instagram, and I talked about it, and I said, there is no off season, right? Like, there's contest prep, and yeah, there's off season, but off season is not the time to relax and take the foot off the gas pedal, and have some excuses and say, oh, I'm going to eat a little bit more here, and then I still have these cheat meals, and I'm going to kind of just not be as accurate with my training and my sleep, and I could have more of a social life. No, if you really want to go to the Olympia, if you really want to be the best in the world, you're just cut from a different cloth, and you don't care about any of that. And that's what I feel is kind of lost right now, in the sport. And I'm not saying it's lost completely, because there are a lot of good athletes who really do well in the off season. And I think a lot of people are starting to come out and realize it now too. But I think we just need to, we need to keep the momentum going, with current athletes. But eventually, now with social media, more athletes are posting about a lot of off-season stuff, what they're doing in the off-season, how they're still tracking things, and it's starting to catch popularity, especially amongst the young kids.
Have you guys noticed that there's a term, improvement season, that's kind of been getting more popular the last couple of years? It doesn't sound as catchy. It doesn't roll off the tongue the way off-season does, but it actually represents more of what it should be, because the word off sounds like you're taking time off. You're just chilling, you're relaxing, you're not. And I used to always see people, once they started prep, they'd make these posts like, I'm turning the switch on. I'm like, turn the switch on now. Yeah. You should have been doing that for the last 20 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Now you're gonna get serious. Okay. But what do you think about that term, improvement season?
Yeah, I when I write off season, even to my clients, I use quotations, right? Because I mean, come on, what the fuck is the off season? So I call it a growth season, right? Because in the growth season is when you grow, and Jonny said this too, as well as his post. In the off season is when you grow, and then in pre-contest is when you peel down. Peel down doesn't necessarily mean burn body fat. I mean burn muscle and put yourself in a catabolic state. It just means to peel off the body fat. But yeah, I don't myself. I've always hated the word off season. I use growth season. I think you're right. Off season makes people believe they're off, and Jonny's right, and Ron knows, and and I know as well that the off season is just as important as a contest prep. I mean, if you want to be a great bodybuilder, it's 24/7, 365, and I hate that shit too, man. It's time to turn it on. We're gonna, they play all these freaking motivational things. I'm like, bro, I mean, you should be motivated all year long,
Yeah, and I try to remind guys I work with, because they see their bodies progress a lot in contest prep. They even see muscle grow, right? And I always, in the middle of it, when they bring it up to me, I always take those opportunities to remind them, like, hey, look, if you're seeing improvement now in contest prep, you got to keep in mind your body is in an environment to be catabolic. You're not getting good sleep. You're on very minimal calories. You're doing tons of cardio, right? Your muscle is just not in an environment to grow, but you're seeing growth and you're seeing improvement. And that's because you're so on point with everything, right? Now, just take that same mindset, take that same approach, and do it in the off season. You're going to have more food, but it's going to be, all structured food. You're still going to have training, but you're going to have better sleep. You're going to have lower cortisol. You're not doing as much cardio. Even the supplementation, a lot of people think is more. It's less in the off season, and that is less inflammation on the body. More cortisol is lower. You're overall growing more. So if you can do all that in the off season, and it takes and the structure really helps, then why not do it? It's not rocket science, right? It's not rocket science. And it takes you could believe that, but it also takes a certain mindset, a certain crazy mindset, to be like, okay, I'm fucking crazy. I'm gonna do this shit. Yeah. And those are the ones who really, progress. And it's even scarier when you have a talented, gifted athlete who believes that, and then they progress even further.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Jonny, I'm curious about the gains, the progress you made from. Can you tell me what your body weight was when you were men's physique pro? What was it when you were competing in classic? And like, what'd you weigh when you won 212 masters last year at Legion?
Competing as a men's physique guy, like I would hit the stage around 155. I'm 5'5".
Okay.
So I would hit the stage around 155. I think my last year as a pro in men's physique, I was around 160.
Okay.
And then in classic, my cutoff was 180. So I was 180. So I would always hit around 180 for my classic weigh-ins.
Yep.
And then for 212, I was not too much higher than 180. I would come in like 188, 189.
Okay. That's still,
yeah, for 212. I was like 9 pounds over, but I mean, I never went on stage, watery or, with a lot of body fat. So I made some pretty good progress.
That's 30 pounds of tissue, lean muscle tissue you gained as a pro.
As a pro, and that was last year I was 39, so at the age of 39, I was still able to put that on.
Yeah. Yeah. And, right? We're all vertically challenged, all three of us. So I can say this, but 30 pounds on somebody in our height range is like a 6-foot guy putting on 50, 60 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
But
so Jonny, what was go ahead. I'm sorry, Ron.
No, I was just going to get into the training aspect because there is a perception, and it's probably a misconception, that men's physique guys don't train that hard. Classic physique guys train harder than men's physique, and open and 212 bodybuilders train harder than everybody. So Jonny, did you train harder and harder as time went by, or did you always train hard? Should you always train?
I always trained hard, but I trained different with each category, right? Not intentionally, but as I learned, right? So in men's physique, I always trained hard, but I grew up in the 12 to 14 rep range, 3 sets of 12 to 14 reps. That's just what I grew up with, right?
Yeah.
And I got a lot of progress with that. I was able to turn pro in men's physique with that. But with that training, I was able to achieve a look in men's physique where I obtained enough muscle for that physique, right? So there was no reason for me to do like heavy progressive overload to really build my arms. Like, matter of fact, I had to tone my arms down because my arms were big, right. And you don't want big arms in men's physique. You want big shoulders, but you don't want big arms, right? So I had to tone a lot of things down, which I wasn't a fan of. I always wanted to keep pushing and pushing, right? I think all of us bodybuilders do.
Yeah.
And then for classic, I had to show my legs, and fortunately, genetically, I already had good legs. So I was able to still use the 3 sets of 12, right? But I still had to push more. And then I started dabbling into the old school, progressive overload, do one heavy working set, 6 reps, and just try to beat the logbook and just stay there, not really change exercises, but just stay there, right? So I kind of stepped away from a lot of volume, and then I saw my physique progress even more. And then when I went over to 212, I was like, okay, I have one off season before to sum it up, I only had like 2 years left to compete because my daughter was coming, and I wanted to hang it up and stuff. So I was like, okay, I got to maximize these 2 years. So in this next off season, I had to really think about how I was going to progress in 212. So I just continued with my, with the progressive overload and just training heavy and just training heavier, stepping away from the volume. And then, by doing that, I actually saw the most amount of progress training that way and going away from the pump work. Right. So now it's interesting because as I work with, men's physique guys or just the young guys, I see a lot of the guys doing this pump stuff, and they, I always ask them, what are you doing for training? And they're always saying, oh, I'm doing these super drop sets and this and that. And they don't do a lot of heavy stuff. Right. And I always have to tell them, like, hey, look, I know that feels good. I know it looks cool. I know, you're videotaping yourself for Instagram and making all these reels, and it's great. But that's just not gonna build a lot of muscle on you. I mean, it'll get you so far if you're just starting out with bodybuilding and like it's your first time touching weights. Of course, your body's gonna respond, but on the optimal, like, elite level, no. You gotta keep adding more stress to the muscle and signaling that muscle, hey, I can't handle this load. I need to recruit more muscle fiber because I don't want to be stuck here. I want to be able to handle this. And then once you get there, you got to put a new stress on it, right? And so, that's what I learned from it. And I seen it on my own body, and that's why I truly, truly believe it. And that's why I come from the school of training now, where it's like less is more. Before I was like more is more, and I would do like drop sets, and I need like 20 different exercises for chest, and now it's 3 or 4 exercises, 2 working sets. And the guys come back to me, they're like, really, coach, this is it? This is all you want me to do? And I'm like, no, if you're doing it the real way, and you and like Dorian said, you gotta pretend like you have a gun to your baby's head to get that last rep in.
Yeah.
It needs to be that heavy, then you will be taxed.
Yeah, I have the same problem. So like, it's funny, Ron, because and by the way, everybody, we did not have this like scheduled out for Jonny to be progressive overload that we talked about last week. So this is fantastic here, from a top pro that also believes in progressive overload. So this wasn't like sketched out. So I have the same issues, right? So I'll give my clients a training program, and they'll look at it and they'll be like, oh, that's not enough, and then they'll do it, like they'll do a couple of workouts, my local ones, although even the ones I travel to New York to train with me at beds and stuff like that, and then I'll go, well, let me train with you. The day I go and train with them, they're like, oh man, this is like fucking crazy. And like 4 days later, yo, coach, I haven't recovered. Is there anything I could take? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, we have the same issues, man. But I agree, man. I mean, I've followed this training routine for 33 years, and people ask me for my training routine. I'm like, it's the same one. I'm gonna give you the same one I wrote out almost 33 years ago, because the shit works. It works.
Yeah. And then another thing too about progressive overload is that it's not just you got to beat the number. Sometimes you could stay at a number, right? Let's say 405 on bench. You could stay at 405, but just get one more rep and just keep increasing your reps. 405 for 10, 405 for 12, right? And there's so many different ways. Or, like I talked about this on another post. Say you're done maximizing the 405 for 6 reps. Okay, you don't want to maximize there. Now you're done maximizing 405 for 10 reps. Okay, now let's analyze your tempo. Can we slow it down? Can we control that 405 a little bit more? Can we pause at the bottom a little bit more? Let's progress within that. So there's so many things that like athletes tend to look over and not try before they abandon that exercise. That, oh, this is not working for my chest. I tell people there's so much more you can get out of an exercise. There's so much more you can milk it. So I always talk to my clients, like, have you milked that exercise fully? Like, have you milked it to the reps? Have you milked it to the weight? And then I'll have them send me videos, they go, oh yeah, I'm doing 315 for this much. I'm like, okay, show me. And then they're throwing the weight around, using all this momentum. I'm like, no. Slow it down. I want you to count 3-second negatives. And then they give me 3 reps. I'm like, see, you haven't even done that for 6 reps yet. The true way, right? So another misconception, or maybe it's not a misconception. I want you both to address this. A lot of people would say that everybody trains the same, but the difference between a men's physique, a classic physique, and a bodybuilder, be it 212 or open, is more food and more gear. And that's why the training doesn't really matter. You can train exactly the same, but if you add in progressively more food and more gear, you're going to get a bigger human being. Is that true or not?
No. Well, let me
go ahead.
Let me just start. Let me go ahead, Jonny.
No, go ahead.
All right, so let me just say one thing. I've known Jonny for a long time, and we've both talked about training and prepping and stuff like that. So I'm gonna tell you guys, like I told you guys, one of our podcasts is about me prepping Dennis James, Tony Freeman, some of the top pros. They don't take that much gear. So Jonny went from men's physique, 150 pounds, to 212, and I could testament that Jonny does not take a lot of gear. So that's false. So go ahead, Jonny.
I'll just put it this way, man. I mean, without getting too much into the whole gears or supplementation stuff, dosages have been the same since men's physique.
Wow.
Crazy, yeah.
Believe it or not, and everyone could probably listen and say that's lying, And
not.
I have found ways, and I truly believe that, you know, gear is like it's like the icing on the cake, man, you know, but like the bread and butter and the meat and the potatoes is really the diet, the training, the sleep, and the overall stressful environment that you're putting yourself in, right? And like nowadays, you know, with mental health being like such a big topic, I mean, I got a lot of guys and girls dealing with a lot of mental health stuff, you know, and relationships, and I'm a marriage counselor sometimes, you know, and you know, I'm like, hey, dude. Now I tell people like, hey, before you even start your prep, I know you want to do nationals, but are you in a good financial, marriage, like kids wise situation? Because you get your stress ball, you know, and once we get you stressed out, it's not good, you know. Then you're not sleeping and all that. So, but yeah, it's
and people take cortisol as like, it's not a big deal, this and that. But guys, cortisol is a catabolic hormone. Like, it's real. So the example I give, and both you guys have been backstage, if not hundreds of times, probably, right? You know, just magazine coverage, yourself competing with your clients, your friends competing. How many times have we seen somebody backstage look fucking incredible? Like, you see him backstage, you're like, holy fuck. And then he goes on stage, you go back to see him, and he's totally washed out, right? That's cortisol. Like, he got nervous. So if that cortisol hit you that quickly and you got nervous and your body just washed out, can you imagine like going through everything Jonny said, financial stuff, relationships, you know, just overall, you know, stress in life? So that's something huge. You're right to touch on that.
Yeah. Now, here's another thing too, is like another way I get my guys and girls to really take off season serious is like, off season is a way for you to practice preparation. So it's a way to practice your prep. It's a way to practice time management of your meals, time management of your training, even your finances with bodybuilding, right? It's a way to manage your sleep. So you get better at just the day in, day out routine of things, right? And by the time contest prep comes, you're already living that lifestyle, and all you're doing is dropping your calories and adding a little bit more cardio. Hopefully you're in a good position when off season starts where you don't have too much body fat, and, you know, because you've been taking care of yourself in the off season. But, you know, it's a smooth transition because you've already been doing all those things. Now you're just taking a little bit of food away and adding a little bit of cardio. But the meals, going to the gym, it's the same thing. You're still posing in the off season, right? I tell people, just because you don't see your lines in the off season doesn't mean you shouldn't pose, right? Your bones and your joints are still there, right? Oh, I don't like what I see. Who cares? You're practicing the muscle memory of getting into the pose. Matter of fact, if you pose when you're fat, you're gonna pose even better when you're lean.
It's no
even
fun,
better because you're gonna know how to hide what you don't have.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you try to pull a side tricep in the off season, you're breaking your shoulder, man. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
you're trying to hide your low body fat in your back, your lower back.
Oh, dude.
But I think, you know, I was always one to be in shape. Like I've done guest posing appearances of people just, can you get on stage? It wasn't even planned. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm in shape. Can you just get me clean posing trunks? And I would just get on stage, man. You know, but yeah, you're right, man. I mean, yeah, but the off season doesn't mean to be fat. Off season means to grow. And if you're a bodybuilder, you're not gonna get fat. You're gonna be in good condition the whole entire year. Not in prep condition, but in the condition, you shouldn't get fat. Bodybuilders should not get fat off season. That means you're undisciplined. That's exactly what it means.
It's a way to make their excuses be valid for getting fat. Yeah. That's all it is, you know?
100%.
And like, even me, like in my off season, I've experimented, like, you know, you have your calories so high, you have carbs at like 600, 800 grams of carbs a day, whatever you have. And then you want to, like, you have this mindset, like, I got to keep my calories high, so I'm going to do a cheat meal this weekend, you know? And then we do this big cheat meal, but over time I look at my body, I'm like, I'm actually getting fatter, right? So then I told myself, okay, in the off season, I'm eating so many carbs. Does this cheat meal have to be an all out, you know, everything? No, it could be a conservative cheat meal that I'm going to have with my wife. We're going to go out. I'm going to step out to break the monotony, you know, but I could still have a steak and 2 potatoes, you know, like, you know, it also allows me to have a better relationship with food too, you know? So yeah, in the off season, you're right. It's not a time to get fat. I will admit firsthand, I've gotten fat in the off season, but that's how I learned. That's how I learned.
Yeah. When we were young, that's how we learned.
I mean, I remember in college, I was doing boxes and boxes of macaroni and cheese and ground beef because that's all I could afford.
Ramen noodles. That's what we all ate.
That's all I could afford, man. You know,
ramen. Yeah.
Hey, Ron, you remember the bulk forces?
Dude, I remember weight gain shakes back in the 90s when they were like, I think 10,000 calorie shakes at one point, 5,000 calorie shakes.
300 grams of sugar.
Oh, a lot of sugar.
The Russian bear.
Oh, right. What a garbage product that was. But Johnny, I got a question for you because men's physique guys have gotten bigger and bigger as the years have gone by. When the division started versus now, some of these guys, they have as much mass in areas like the back and the shoulders as open bodybuilders. Some of them do. But their waists are tiny. They don't have big waists. They still have very small, narrow waists. Is that a factor of the training? Do they avoid certain exercises like, deadlifts or barbell rows or something, or squats? Or is it the food? Do they just not eat as much? Because it puzzles me how these guys can have these massive backs and shoulders. Some of them have pretty big damn arms too. Yeah. But they still have like what looks to me like a 28-inch waist up there.
Right. So with men's physique, a lot of it is the food. And I can't say it's the training because a lot of the men's physique guys are training the same way as open bodybuilders. They're doing the rack pulls, they're doing deadlifts, they're doing heavy movements, right? So it's not really the food. I mean, it's not really the training. It's more so the food. So when I look at a men's physique guy, when I prep a men's physique guy, and when I prep for men's physique myself, my waistline was a huge component of my physique. I could not let my waist get big, and I was obsessed about it. Like I wouldn't let my abs really go away. So it was really like a lot of management of keeping my abs still visible in the off season. And if I could still hit like that twisted men's physique pose in the off season, then I was in a good place, right? If I couldn't, then I was getting too fat and I was pushing too much food, and then I'd be afraid of getting my waist too big. So I always teetered on that, just basing everything on how my waist looked. Also in the off season, I would still practice a lot of my men's physique poses, pulling in the abs, pulling in the waist, twisting my hips the way it needs to be twisted, and looking at myself in the mirror and see if I could still pull that off, right? So with so much focus on like activating those inner, abdominal muscles and keeping the waist small, but still eating as much food as I could and training as heavy as I could without letting that waistline go is a key component in like getting bigger in men's physique, but still keeping that waist small, right?
Yeah. Did you manage to keep your waist roughly the same size as you put on the muscle that you eventually did?
No,
all the way
it got bigger.
It did get bigger.
No, it got bigger.
Okay.
It got bigger. Yeah, like matter of fact, I my last at Legions in Masters, you're able to cross over to all divisions.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I crossed over to Classic and I crossed over to men's physique.
Wow.
Yeah, and you should have seen the look on Tyler's face when I came out in board shorts.
You did all three. Wait, you did all three of those divisions last year at Legion?
I did all three. So
wow.
believe it or not, in 35 plus men's physique, I placed top 5, so I got 5th.
Yep.
But I accredit a lot of that to just my conditioning, shape, and my posing. But like, I really didn't look like I belonged in men's physique anymore.
Yeah.
But and then in Classic, I still made weight for that year I made weight for Classic by I really had to pull my food down just to make weight for 180. And then I was able to bounce back up to 189. And then I was able to do 212 as well. And then in Classic, I got second.
Wow. That's
yeah,
awesome.
but I always wanted to keep a small waist even for 212, but I did feel it. Like I did notice that it was harder for me to like pull in a vacuum, and it was harder for me to hit an ab shot, and for me to like look in my ab shot and really be like, wow, I really like how that sets. I could see that like my abdominal muscles were starting to split. When they start to split down the middle, it's because like you feel like your intestines have just grown, right? So then I really thought about it. I'm like, well, why is it bigger, And I really feel it is the organs that are inside, the little muscles. There's so many miniature muscles in there that grow too, and the organs are muscles as well. They grow, right? So it's just the combination of all the food and the training, and over time those muscles do grow, right? But yeah, the men's physique guys, the way they're keeping that waist small is like as soon as they see their waist starting to bulge over, a lot of them they get scared. They get scared because to have a big waist in men's physique is like a nightmare. That's like the worst thing that could happen for you.
You're done. You're done.
You're done. You're done.
So that makes me wonder, do bodybuilders, a lot of them eat more than they need to? Because, you know, bubble guts aren't as common as they used to be, but we still see some hefty guts. Yeah, dude, I got one right here.
Imagine this. Imagine this. Like the judges for men's physique, all you hear is like, well, you would have placed higher, but your waist is like, it's just not as small as this guy. And you know, Aaron Banks's waist is so small, and Jeremy Buendia's waist is so small. If you had a smaller waist like that, you'd probably place better. Like, imagine hearing that all day long. But in open bodybuilding in 212, you don't hear that so much in 212 or bodybuilding. You hear more so like, well, you just need to be bigger. You know, if you had more size here, if you had a bigger back here, bigger thigh sweeps here, they don't stress so much about the waist. So when I went over to 212 and all that stuff, I didn't hear all those critiques. So I didn't have that as a priority in my mind to keep my waist small. I didn't do extra things in my off season to keep my waist small. In the off season, my gut would hang out because I had so much food, you know, and you know, it's just, and I didn't focus so much on doing abs, right? Men's physique, that's another thing. I trained abs a lot, not a lot of weighted exercises, but just a lot of crunches and leg lifts just to keep those abdominal muscles activated. Once I went over to 212, I didn't care about all that. You know, I just thought, oh, I'm going to have abs when I'm shredded. So no need for that.
Yeah, Johnny's gut hanging is like if somebody is an Olympia on stage. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure it wasn't hanging much.
Johnny had the great midsection. So when he does gut hanging, guys, don't think Johnny's walking around looking like Fat Albert and stuff like that.
Oh no! When I say gut hanging, it's like a 6-pack, but then like it's bulging. You know, with food.
See?
Yeah.
It's a food belt.
I hate guys with genetics.
So I'm curious, when Johnny, you know, when you were a men's physique pro, when you were competing in men's physique, were you always training legs heavy, or were you worried that would overall make your midsection expand?
I didn't care about training legs heavy. I just cared about because I didn't have to show them, right?
Right.
And number one, I didn't have to show them. Number two, I didn't think I was going to go to a heavier division, so I didn't have a priority to train my legs heavy. I trained my legs. Actually, I trained my legs higher reps, 3 sets of like 15 to 20 reps, because I used it as a day to actually burn more calories. Right. So that's what a lot of men's physique guys do is they use leg day as a day to just really burn a lot of glycogen, you know, but they don't train. I mean, what's the point of training legs heavy in men's physique? Because number one, you could injure yourself. Number two, you know, you could pull a whatever, right? You know, especially if you're doing men's physique, you're not used to training legs heavy, and then you go heavy one day and then you're out for whatever, and it's just going to mess you up. So yeah, to answer your question, no, I didn't train heavy legs, but nowadays I feel that men's physique guys are training legs heavier because of social media, because one guy is training legs. Jeremy Buendia is training legs heavier now. You got Fak Ron training legs heavier now. You know, you got all the top Olympians training legs, and they're doing leg day videos, and why not? That causes more attention to their channel, leg day videos. So now it's causing more men's physique guys to train legs, you know, and they're even showing more legs now. They're doing even Brandon Hendrickson he threw up a front double bicep pose showing his quads, and they look great. Yeah. You know,
I remember it was at the Olympia, maybe I can't remember the year, but it was one of the years Buendia won. I think he won. At the pose, they had a pose, you know, Bob Ciccarello's a clown sometimes. So like, even if it's a division like bikini, or he'll go, all right, pose down, just to get the crowd going. And the top 5 guys all hiked up their shorts, board shorts, and they all had legs, every single one of them. But here's a question for you. I think back in a few years ago, before classic physique, most of the guys who were competing in men's physique, that was the end goal. They weren't looking to move up another division, but it seems now a lot of them seem to treat men's physique as a stepping stone, and classic or open, but it's usually classic is where they really aspire to go. Do you see a lot more of that lately yourself?
I do, because I mean, I was one of the first, along with Sadiq Hadzovic, who jumped ship. We didn't jump ship, but we were like, hey, we're going to go over to classic physique. Actually, the first year there was classic physique, Sadiq and I were both the first guys from men's physique to be in that Olympia.
Oh, wow.
But it's like, was Sadiq Mr. Olympia? No. Was I Mr. Olympia? No. But did it give us another avenue to try to be great in another division, especially if we have legs? Yeah, why not? So it gives guys a chance to really go to these divisions, and then it just proves to other people like, hey, Sadiq made it to the Olympia stage in classic. Jonny made it to the Olympia stage in classic. Stanimal, he went from men's physique to classic physique to open, and now he's doing well, right?
Yeah. Logan Franklin, another good crossover.
Logan Franklin, look at him. He's, he went from men's physique and he's killing it in classic. He's, so I wouldn't call it so much a step. Well, I take that back. It kind of has morphed into a stepping stone, because I don't want to discredit men's physique, because men's physique is its own division, and I believe it's a great division for people who want to be in that division. Right. But for someone coming to me, like I have a 21-year-old who came to me, he's first time coming to me, never competed. He has a great structure for classic. He also has a good structure for men's physique, and he is a fan of both, right? And he wants to try both. And now at these shows, they have both divisions you can cross over. And I tell him, look, whether you do men's physique or classic physique, or you want to cross over to bodybuilding, do them all. But either way, whatever division you go, you're going to get the experience of prepping, because you're going to diet, you're going to do the cardio, you're going to have to pose. And then as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you'll progress and figure out what division you like and which ones you belong in, based on the judges' feedback and your shape and all that. And then from there, you don't have to stick to men's physique. You go to classic if you want, or you could go to classic and you figure out like, it is a lot harder than I thought, and I don't like these poses, and I like men's physique better. Then you stay there.
Yeah. Johnny, while I have you on the spot, there's been talk about maybe men's physique should have a weight cap, because these guys are getting bigger and obviously they must be getting heavier. Do they need a weight cap installed to stop that? Or do you think the judges do a good enough job of, when a guy shows up looking way too jacked for men's physique, he doesn't get first call out?
Men's physique started out with no weight cap, and they also started out a lot smaller. I mean, you look at the first crew, it was, Jeremy, it was Jason Poston, it was Sadiq, it was Steve Cook, right? Yeah. Matt Acton, a lot of those guys. Yeah. Matt Christianer.
Matt.
There was no need to have a weight cap, but now these guys are getting bigger, right? And a lot of these guys, I talked to them, a lot of them are personal friends of mine. If they were to compete in classic, they wouldn't even make the weight cutoff.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
Right. So I could see both sides. I mean, what would happen if there was a weight cutoff for their height? I think if there was a weight cutoff for their height, I don't think a lot of guys are like so over the weight limit. I think they would maybe have to shave down like 2 or 3 pounds. But even if they did shave down 2 or 3 pounds, their overall shape and their silhouette is still going to be dominant, right? But I mean, at the same time, I think the judges are doing a good job, because I do see guys who are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're not placing better, and they're still getting beat out by guys who are smaller, who have better shapes, right? And that's why when I coach my men's physique guys, I always tell them, like, look, I don't care what your weight is, but like if you're too big, I'll just tell them, like, you just don't look men's physique to me. You look like a bodybuilder in board shorts. Your waist is a little bit too blocky. Like, we just need to bring your physique down, I don't know, 5-6 pounds, and make you look a little bit more streamlined and more athletic looking, but still be full and round and, hard. Right. So, yeah, I don't know if I gave you a good answer there, but do I think there needs to be a weight cap? I don't think there needs to be a weight cap right now. I think the physiques will just automatically start to cancel themselves out as they just look odd in board shorts. As long as the physique looks good, and you're like, hey, I mean, you look at someone like Aaron Banks, do you think he's like overly too big? Do you think Brandon is like overly too big? No, I think they look good at their, at the way they stand on stage, the way they're put together. Yeah. Right. But I think once everyone starts looking like, okay, this is Kai Green in board shorts. This is not men's physique anymore, Yeah.
Like, I think that I agree with you. The judges do a good job, because I do see those guys, the Kai Greens in board shorts, and they're 3rd, 4th call out guys. They don't ever get first call out, because everyone's I'm in the press pit, and I'm like, people around me, I'm like, what is this guy thinking? The guy in the green trunks or whatever. He's freaking looks like he's like 220 at 5'6" or something. His legs are bulging out of his board shorts. Why is he in men's physique? Just go to bodybuilding. Just go to classic. Do something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Are you talking about NPC shows?
No, pro shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but NPC shows are the worst though, because when men's physique came out, I was judging, and I'm gonna start judging again this year, matter of fact. But I was judging I judged the first men's physique wave that came out, right? And a lot of the bodybuilders that were NPC bodybuilders for a long time, just hadn't turned pro. And some of the guys are doing men's physique, and they would come on stage. I'd be like, "What the fuck?" Like this guy's like Ron said, you know what I'm saying? Like 5'6", 220 pounds,
Yeah,
and we're all sitting in the press pit, and we're like, "Yeah, we need to like set some type of standard rules to this, So eventually, the first year was pretty much it's like everything, right? The first year is like the Wild Wild West, and then eventually like it'll settle down, and like it's like Jonny said as well. You'll get to a point where where they know where they should be, but the judges, more importantly, know where all the competitors are. But that first year in the NPC was crazy, man.
Oh, dude, that's
yeah. But you know what? Like shows everywhere across the world now have men's physique, classic physique, wellness, bikini, everything, right? Then they now have true novice, and they have novice, and they have open, right? So I have a guy who competed in classic and men's physique, and he did classic men's physique first time. He did true novice, open for all of them.
Jesus.
And he medaled in all of them.
Cha-ching, right? Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah. but it was $150 to enter each division.
Each class.
Do the math. My goodness.
Plus his NPC card.
Yeah.
Plus the tanning company was the tanning company that the promoter used. So right. So they had to use that tanning company because that was the only tanning company that was at the host hotel. Right.
For sure.
So are they going to stop these people from applying to get into all these divisions? No.
Yeah.
Get on stage. But us as a coach, we're like, no, dude, you have no business being in bodybuilding, or you have no business being in men's physique and getting on the board shorts. But they want to do it, and they're like, well, let me just try it. I want to see if it's for me. Okay,
Well, I mean, I think newer people do need to kind of figure out what division they belong in, even though you can look at them and you probably would immediately, you or I or Fak would be like, you're men's physique, you're classic, you're open. It wouldn't even be a question in our minds, but I think a lot of these people, they want to try out all the different.
Yeah, exactly. So I just let them go. And, most of the time I was right. And they go, you know what, I'm just going to stick to this division.
Yeah.
But
I have a classic physique guy that I'm prepping right now, young guy. So last week we were at the gym, and he asked me, he goes, "Hey coach, maybe I should do middleweight division." I'm like, "You think you're a middleweight bodybuilder?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You get killed." I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, and then he looks at me like, I'm like, "Yo, don't look at me weird. Like, hold on, let me show you a picture of what the middleweight national winner looked last year. The USA middleweight winner." And he's like, "Well, I can't look like that." I'm like, "So then why compete at that level if you can't look at that level, right? Compete at classical physique, maximize that, even get your pro card, and then, then you could, change divisions if you want." But I think it's really, really important to, I don't like, I call myself mean, people just call me straightforward, which, I appreciate more, but I'm like, I'm a non-bullshit guy, man. And you have to tell them and show them, well, this is your picture and this is a picture of the national winner. Which division you think you're going to fit in.
Yeah. I mean, I see classic people, especially at the amateur level, they have no business. There's nothing classic about their physique at all. I mean, blocky waist, just horrible shape, structure. They just happen to be able to make that weight cap for their height. That doesn't mean, it's just like, just because we can clone dinosaurs doesn't mean we should clone dinosaurs. Right. Jurassic Park reference. But we're all over the place with this. But yeah, that's my little spiel about classic.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I wanted to kind of touch up on about the off-season thing is I got tired of just talking to these guys and my clients and girls and about the importance of it. So now I just have, I have like a whole adherence report written down in my check-in, right? For their diet, their sleep, their training, their cardio, their posing, I even asked them about their stress levels, and I don't tell them to like write a whole paragraph, but just elaborate on a scale of 1 to 10 how much it was hit, and just to be honest, right? And I tell them, don't lie to me about anything. Actually, the more honest and truthful you are, the better we're going to be able to mold you and get you ready for this, right? And a lot of them at first are very like, why are we doing all this? But then they start seeing it, and they start seeing the progress, and then they become believers. I wasn't a believer when I first started doing off season. I was like, hey, this is time for me to like go out and party and whatever. But I learned it all on my own, and that's why I tell these guys, hey, look, I've been there, done that. I've totally messed up my off season, didn't take it serious. I put on 50 pounds in the off season, got fat, and then I dieted down, and I was the exact same weight. I looked the exact same physique. I've done it all, right? And I've also done the extreme side where I've really, really done excellent in my off season, and then I progressed and I put like, I don't know, 7-8 pounds on my stage frame. So I've seen it all, and I tell people, hey, look, just give it a try. And the ones that do give it a try, they become believers.
Sure. Cool. Yeah. In fact, we should do our next show just about the off season, because it's a lot of people going to be entering an off season in the next few weeks. So we got to.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask. Just not to get ahead of ourselves, I'm gonna ask one of the GOAT coaches that I think is. I mean, if I'm saying he's a GOAT coach, he has to be a GOAT coach, right? So yeah. I'm gonna let you know in a couple of days if we get him on. It'll be awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Jonny, I don't know if you still have any room for clients. If so, how can people get a hold of you?
You could just send me a direct message on Instagram. Okay. I just reply to them through direct message and stuff. But yeah, I don't only do contest prep, but I do lifestyle as well.
Okay, cool. And what's your Instagram?
It's Jonny Sebastian, one word. JOHNNY SEBASTIAN.
Gotcha. All right. Hit him up.
Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. This has been a very enlightening discussion. I think we hit on some good stuff on this episode. So, Jonny, thank you so much for joining us. I've never had this really good perspective of someone who's done all those different divisions. So it was really, really cool to hear all that. In fact, you're the man. You put it all together, of course. So.
Thank you, Jonny. I appreciate you, man. And go ahead.
And just to put it out there, Fak did coach me in the past, and I learned a lot from the way he coached me. I learned very meticulous. A lot of my meticulous ways come from him, and one thing I still say that I stole from you actually is when I tell people, hey, you can have one cheat meal, but keep it very professional. Right? Keep it very professional. I mean, seriously. Yeah. And that's huge. But I mean, just everything, the cardio. I still have my clients do HIIT on the Stairmaster. Hey, I have them do. Sometimes if they're really struggling and they have that really, stubborn body fat, I'm like, look, you're gonna do an hour of HIIT on the stairs, 5-minute warm up. Oh
my God.
And then 1 minute as hard as you can, 1 minute back to that warm up speed, back and forth till you hit 55 minutes. And then at 55 minutes, you do the cool down.
Yeah, you better have.
And I tell them, don't lean on the handlebars. You have to stand straight up.
Ooh, do the Kai Green trick. He had a broomstick across his back on the step.
But I remember the first time Fak emailed me that, dude. But I think you had me do on the elliptical. I was like, holy shit, an hour of this shit.
Oof. Elliptical's bad, but Stairmaster step mill, my goodness, that's torture.
But yeah,
Jonny, I got a lot of love and respect for you guys on the West Coast, man. The whole group of you guys, man. And
Omar,
thank you for coming on board, man.
Yeah.
Much love and respect, bro. And I'm so happy to your transition from just men's physique to to all the way to 212, but also now your journey. And Johnny's a hell of a coach, man. If you go on his page, you're gonna see a lot of good competitors, man, that he's prepped, man. And congratulations on everything, my brother.
Thank you. I don't have a lot. I'm not a big coach. I don't have a lot, but even if it's someone who has the worst genetics and who won't go, I still want to bring them in peeled, and I still want to bring them at their best.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. So. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up episode 3 of Fak Attack, the Fakri Mubarak Show. Special guest today has been Jonny Sebastian. You can find him on Instagram at Jonny Sebastian. Great coach now. And that's it, guys. We appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, leave some comments whether you love us or hate us. It's all good. We love feedback. So that's it. And subscribe. Do hit that notification bell thing too. We'll see you next time right here on Fak Attack. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.